Hello, another video book review of a new book. This is City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. First Adrian Tchaikovsky book I've ever read, and I got it specifically because the cover's so cool. This is probably backwards, but it's got a great aesthetic. There's like a demon on the front, there's upside down pentagrams, there's like World War II looking soldiers. It's strange. It's very strange, and I hadn't read Adrian Tchaikovsky before. I know he has pretty famous, Children of Time sci-fi book, and I didn't really feel like reading sci-fi, so I said, why not? I want this physical book. I'll read it. So I just finished it. It took me a couple days. It's a 500-page book. Not particularly long, right? A couple days only. However, it's a strange one. It's a very strange one. It might be because I have been reading pretty down-to-earth historical fictions like Bernard Cornwell and Ken Follett, their Pillars of the Earth, the Winter King, Warlord Chronicle stuff. So that's like really down to earth, very realistic. It's historical fiction, right? So no really magic stuff. And with Warlord Chronicles, it took a little bit to get into the world because the world is Dark Ages Britain, and they believe and think differently, and they believe in weird things, right? Anyways, I'm saying that because this book, right, was very strange to get into, and I have a few reasons for that. It was weird because you're getting thrown into a new setting, and it's not a typical fantasy, right? You're not in this medieval society, town or village or castle or what have you, right? Like a million fantasies out there. This is like a industrial city, but instead of like electricity and coal power, let's say, it's like magic and demons and things. Like it's interesting. There's a lot of cool and interesting things here, but that setting is what really drew me to it after I saw, and it's a part of the cover itself, where I was, all right, this is new. It's a whole new setting, all weird. It's not going to be knights and castles. Let's see what's going on. And that definitely helped the book, but its weirdness also kind of hurt it because it was just too strange. It was too strange to understand for a bit. And it wasn't helped by the point of view shifts. You kept getting jumped from point of view to point of view, and it was all different. It felt like, okay, you start with one character, and then they're introduced, or they come across a different character, and then the next chapter, you now shift to that character who you go again, and you keep shifting and shifting and shifting and shifting. And it's so strange. It was, I have it on a sticky note here. I wrote down the other day. I was 30% through the book, and I might have revisited like one character with the point of view. And that kind of remained throughout the rest of the book, where you revisited some people like maybe 3 or 4 times, but you kept going, like everyone on the page, everyone that you get to is a potential point of view character. But because of that, I never felt attached to any of the characters. Another character, it might have been the way that it was written, or it felt like it was character weak in the book for sure. Like everyone's kind of got like an interesting aesthetic, and you know what their job title is, what gets them paid in this weird world, and a little bit on the backstory. But other than that, like, I can't really describe to you the characters very much. I think to the Red Letter Media, when they did that Phantom Menace Plinkett review, and in that they had a critique of the characters in Phantom Menace by just asking people like, all right, tell me about Qui-Gon Jinn, tell me about whoever, right? And explain like them in a few sentences, and the people couldn't say more than just Qui-Gon is noble. That's it's not as bad as that, but it's not much better, right? And jumping from point of view to point of view doesn't help. It doesn't help because I just didn't feel it. There were twists, I guess, and I didn't really know where the story was going, and I didn't really get a handle on the story. Like I couldn't figure out, okay, what is even happening? Where is this story going? What's the plot? I don't understand what's happening. I didn't get that until it became apparent a little bit in. But it was, I enjoyed the book. I don't want to say I like disliked it. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed my time with it. I was reading it and I was like interested through it. I was never like bored. So pacing is done well. The writing is a little bit flowery and it feels like you're in a play. It really does feel like you're in a play. There are point of view chapters where you leave the point of view of a character and now this chapter is like a narrator on like, all right, zoom out and now we're gonna go north to here and take a look what's happening here, and then let's move over here. And that happens in a few chapters, kind of sprinkled throughout the book. It's a very weird way of structuring a book. And even in chapters, heck, even in like a few paragraphs, you jump from character to character in their point of view, and the point of view is not very strong. You feel like you're always hovering, and that might be why I wasn't at least invested in any of the characters really, because you feel like how it's written. I don't even know how to explain it, but it feels, there might be more technical terms for it. You let me know, but it feels like you're always hovering over the scene. You're kind of shifting. You're not like when you're reading, I don't know, Wheel of Time, Fateful and the Fallen, Dark Tower, any of these, right? You're not like locked on like top of the head or on the shoulder of a character, following them wherever they go. This is like you're above the scene and everyone is doing their parts and you're watching it happen. And there's even a chapter where in this book where, to reinforce this almost, where you zoom out and you go to this random person. They're just described as she, right? And they're, I think, like a journalist or something, but you kind of piece that together. But all she is just watching from like atop of a building, watching events unfold and saying, yep, she's done this before and she'll keep doing it, and she has a great spot to look at, and then she's describing what's happening. And that happens one chapter. You only see her once. That's the only time it happens. And that is kind of the vibe of this entire book, where you're just weirdly above it all. So this book is interesting, very interesting ideas, really cool aesthetics. It's like the front of this book is 0% a lie. Like all of this stuff and more. Cool aesthetics happen, right? Demons are chained to run the mills and make the things in the city, the Hammer District. There's like a huge occupying presence called the Palatine, where they like have taken over the city 3 years ago and now rule with an iron fist, trying to spread the correct way of living and banning all the incorrect ways of doing things. There's cool, like, it's riddled with like religious themes and different religions and things vying for supremacy. And one of the point of views is a priest, the last priest of a dying religion. He's the last member of the dying religion too, and no one wants to take up the faith. Like there's cool things that I think could have been more interesting, way more interesting, but it did feel cold. The book did feel cold because you're just not connected to the characters, really. So if you really want cool ideas and a cool aesthetic and a really cool like setting, this is great. Like this book is great for that. But I am finishing this book feeling oddly unsatisfied. Like the book doesn't end to me in an interesting way. It doesn't feel like things were wrapped up nicely or even at all. It kind of feels like we went from point A with all of these characters, from point A to point B, and things are a bit different afterwards. But nothing is very satisfying. So, yeah, I will say, unique read. I have not read anything like it. If you want to have an interesting time, go for it, but don't expect to be blown away. I wasn't, but I did have an interesting read. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah. I am gonna, because how cool the covers are, I am gonna continue on to the next one. And I believe it's even like you're kind of in the same universe or world and you're just shifted a little bit over. Like the story kind of is over on this, is how I figure it. And it also has better reviews. So I would like to at least try that. So when I get my hands on it, I will be reading it, but I'm not going to be rushing to do that. I have plenty more books on my TBR that need reading. So on to the next book.